Duke, UNC, you watched the game on Thursday. You're still talking about it today, and rightfully so, and we're going to talk about it. Huge dramatic finish. Doc Rivers' kid, Austin Rivers, with a clutch three-pointer to put away the Tar Heels, and Duke Nation was, well, let's just say they're still celebrating today. It sounded like this.
Plumlee grabs the rebound. 84-82, Tar Heels. 9 seconds left as Rivers comes front court. Rivers works against Bullock. To the right side he goes. He'll try to step back with 1 second. Let's fly! Got it! The Blue Devils win it over North Carolina. 85-84. Oh my gosh! I do not believe this.
I love the call, and we'll go to the Sound Off hotline and welcome in the guy who has that call, and he's been the voice of the Duke Blue Devils for 36 years now. Bob Harris, welcome to the Sports Sound Off Show with JT and Kuveikis. Good morning to you. How are you?
Good morning. That's easy for you to say.
Exactly right. Well, thanks for joining us today. All right.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Talk about it with me. Austin Rivers, big money shot there Thursday against the arch rival North Carolina Tar Heels. He came into this game as Doc's kid, but after hitting that shot, he looked like, at least for one moment, it was the other way around. Doc is Austin's dad.
That's right. And those things, I remember going back several years, Calvin Hill said the same thing. He said, for the longest time he was Calvin's son. Now I'm Grant's father. So, it's so interesting to watch former athletes who are great in their own right, but who have sons who turn out to be pretty great too, and see how the interaction goes between those two. But I'll tell you what, to see Doc Rivers and his post-game celebration on Wednesday night in Chapel Hill, that was worth the price of admission. I forgot. It was Carolina people mostly who paid for the admission over there. They didn't like it too much. But the Duke fans who got to see it in person and on TV really enjoyed it, and that was the great thing.
I think I like about this Duke team, I mean, everybody knows the name Curry and Rivers, but they're more than just those two guys. Look, we saw it yesterday. You guys played. They played Maryland. All of a sudden, you got the Plumlee brothers putting up double-doubles. They're a force to reckon with. Talk about this team. There's so much depth in this squad Krzyzewski's got.
Well, there are. Normally when we get to this time of the year, there's 7, maybe 8 players playing at most. But, we're looking at 9 and 10 players playing just about every game for the Blue Devils now. And some of that has to do with, just the makeup of the team, because you haven't had one true star on this team. There's not a John Shire or a Kyle Singler, Nolan Smith of the recent years. But there are a lot of guys who can contribute at various times. And I think we saw yesterday, Mason Plumlee continuing his very good post play, and then his older brother Miles coming off the bench yesterday and getting a double-double, with 22 rebounds, and as Coach K told us in the post game, more than any player he has ever coached in 37 years, getting rebounds, and that's quite a statement when you consider all the nice post players and good rebounders that Coach has mentored in his career. That includes, the guys like Brandon Boozer and, all those guys, Leitner, and, just right on down the line. But nobody ever had 22 rebounds in a game that he has coached in for the Blue Devils. So that was a huge get right there. And, I thought about it about 3 times in the late stages of the game. After he hit 15, 16 rebounds, I thought, I'm having flashbacks here of February 13th, I believe it was, in 2010, when Brian Zubek, a senior who hadn't really, had monster games before, against Maryland, he had 16 points and 17 rebounds. And all of a sudden, here comes Plumlee, a senior who has only a couple more games in a Duke uniform on this floor, and he goes for 13 and 22. I mean, my goodness, that's by far his greatest game, probably ever. I think he told me in the postgame he had never had a game where he had 22 rebounds at any level. So he was really excited about it, and the team was excited for him. But as Coach remarked in the postgame, the defining moment for him was when he goes diving for a loose ball, grabs it, and sliding on his back probably 15 feet. I know he was sweaty and the floor was slick, but that's pretty good. And then he said for probably one of the few times in his career he threw it to one of his own teammates. But that was just the kind of game that Miles had yesterday.
Talking with the legendary voice of the Duke Blue Devils, Bob Harris, here on the Sports Sound Off Show with JT and Kuveikis. Bob, talk about some of your greatest moments, memories of calling games. 36 years, you're a Hall of Fame inductee, and congratulations on that. Talk about some of your memories calling games for the Duke Blue Devils.
Well, we've had so many great teams and great events to happen. I've been fortunate enough to go to 12 Final Fours and 11 with Krzyzewski coach teams. I went to my first one in '78 with Bill Foster's coached Duke team, and that was an extreme highlight for me because you had two freshmen, a sophomore, and two juniors, and here they go and go all the way to the championship game and lost to Kentucky. But to go to that many Final Fours and be able to be on the floor with four of those teams that won a national championship and see their faces when one shining moment is played, those are huge highlights. But there are other games that probably didn't mean as much as those, but they were still classics and things that will stick out in my mind. And of course, the Leitner shot against Kentucky, and and most people think that was for the championship, but it wasn't. It wasn't even the Final Four. It was to send Duke to the Final Four for. That's the second straight national championship, but that has to be the epitome because of what it meant, the type of game that it was. It's been referred to by a lot of members of the media as the greatest game ever, and for it to have happened the way it did, and for a man who had a perfect night shooting, 10 of 10 from the line, 10 of 10 from the floor. But that 10th one from the floor was the one that everybody remembers, and so do I told Christian a couple of years ago, we were at Coach K's fantasy camp and sitting and talking after an interview, and I said, whether either one of us likes it or not, we're tied together for the rest of our lives because of your talent and ability to make a shot under such pressure, and me to have the luck to have a decent call on it. And we're just all wrapped up. He looked at me and grinned and punched me on the shoulder. He says, "I'm all for it if you are." And I told Austin Rivers on Friday after the Carolina shot that he made, I said, I've ridden Christian Leitner's back for 20 years because of that one. I'm going to try to ride yours for 20 years because of this one. And so he said, hey, that works for me too, so we'll see if that can hold up. But, he may have a lot more great shots in him. You never know. He's just a freshman, and hopefully we'll see a lot more of him. In this day and age, with the way things go, the NBA rating the college game for talent, you never know what's going to happen. But you enjoy it while you can. But so many other great moments, great teams that I've had the pleasure of working with and calling. But even with all that, the thing that I'm really most proud of is my relationship with the players, and that's been the great thing. Because I think it was brought home very, very vividly the night that Coach broke the record for most wins in New York. They had a reception afterwards back in the back of the Garden with all the former Duke players who had come back, and every one of them came over and gave me a big old bear hug, and that means a lot. That
yeah,
it wasn't a handshake or a, hey, how are you? It was a hug. I mean, it was a sincere friendship thing, and that means the world to me.
Bob, Lee Kuveikis here. You speak of the the record being broken by Coach Krzyzewski this year. With the season going on, Duke's 8-2 in the conference in the ACC, North Carolina's 8-2, and FSU's 8-2. With that all said, going into the ACC tournament, is that thrown out the window? Because Florida State beat North Carolina, they beat Duke in Durham. I mean, does that all go out the window when the ACC tournament starts?
Absolutely. You never look at season records or head-to-head competition, things like that, and you go play 3 days, hopefully in the tournament site, and let the chips fall, and then you hope that you can go the next week and start playing in the NCAAs. But that's a season unto itself, really, the ACC tournament. So. Not that you don't look back at those things and you try to learn from them. You naturally do that, but it's not something that weighs on your mind as you go to that opening tip-off for a rematch with Carolina or Florida State, whatever. But, the fact that we do have three teams, with, here we are almost the middle of February, and there are three teams tied to the top, that says something about the ACC this year.
All right, Bob Harris, really appreciate the time. Final question, we're asking our listeners to respond to this. What's more exciting, a three-pointer at the buzzer, and I got a feeling which way you're going to go, but I got to ask you anyways, a three-pointer at the buzzer or a walk-off home run?
Well, I grew up playing baseball more so than basketball. The walk-off home runs, I don't know, they've gotten so dramatic with them, with the pointing and the trotting and all this stuff. I go away from the pro game a lot. So the three-pointer at the buzzer, yes. And whether it's Duke or whether it's, any other team, putting it up, sometimes under duress, with the game on the line, that's clutch to me. That's the best.
All right, Bob Harris signing off with us here, JT and Kuveikis on ESPN 730. Bob, really appreciate your time. Thanks so much. We hope to catch up with you during tournament time. Thank you.
Okay, you got it, guys. Thanks for having me.
There he is, Bob Harris, legendary voice of the Duke Blue Devils, 36 years, and oh yes, he called all 4 NCAA Duke title wins. Great catching up with him. Excellent. And Kuveikis, my favorite call, I think you got it for me. Christian Laettner, Duke Blue Devils, Bob Harris.
Bobby Hurley up the floor with Laettner. They throw it to the left of the floor. Laettner catches, comes down, dribbles, shoots, scores! Christian Laettner has hit the bucket at the buzzer. The Blue Devils win it, 104 to 103.
One of the best guys, play-by-play ever. Clearly my favorite. And I'm not even a Duke guy, but when I'm looking to hear the highlights of the Duke, I'm going to go with Bob Harris.